Hey guys, welcome to Analyze Art. We are the Record Brothers, and we're going to be discussing Kanye West's discography today. I have been a fan of Kanye for quite a long time, so I'm pretty well versed in Kanye. My brother is actually new to Kanye, so we thought it would be a really cool idea to discuss his discography. We're going to give him rankings, but we're really going to go as much in depth as possible into each of his albums. We will be ranking the 9 studio solo albums of Kanye, also his 2 collaborative albums, Kids See Ghost and Watch the Throne.
Yeah, Cruel Summers is we're not including it on this list. Not that it's not Kanye definitely worked on the project, but it's much
more of a compilation album.
Yeah.
Like when people talk about Cruel Summers, I'm just kind of like, yeah, that's a good music compilation album. It's not a Kanye like project to me.
And of course, at the making of this video, Donda, as it is known now, has not been released.
Yeah, so I'm sure it will change names like 50 times before it's all done. So we're waiting on Donda. So in the meantime, I decided to get my brother into Kanye. So he's actually listened through them all, and we're going to give both of our takes on the music. So we're going to start at number 11. I'm gonna let you start.
Yeah, so I'll kick it off with my number 11, Watch the Throne. I don't think it's outrageous to put this album at the bottom. It's an okay album, and let me just say, Kanye doesn't have a bad album. He definitely doesn't. I think all of his albums are good or great, and this is the only one that isn't either of those. I think it's okay. I think that it's got a few good tracks on it, like Paris and Murder to Excellence.
Yeah, Paris is a good one.
I love those two. But the rest of the track is just ironically lackluster, and I think that it's just...
I'm going to jump in. I also have Watch the Throne at 11. Some people really have like a really tight connection with this album because it was such a big moment. And I think this album is more of a moment for Kanye and Jay-Z than it actually is a good album.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest struggle with this album is they just kind of forgot to make a fully great project. I really like the opening to the album. I think it's really good. No Church to the Wild. The guitars are like incredible. They drive you through the whole song. Frank Ocean's melody that comes in at the beginning, it's a perfect tone setter, and then you get to Lift Off and you're like, where the heck, what is this going?
Yeah, what happened to I thought it was going to be good, right?
Yeah.
It's Jay-Z and Kanye.
Yeah.
But
so I think they just kind of like, well, we're Jay-Z and Kanye, so we'll figure out this album.
Yeah. I think this album just kind of struggles from when it was made. It was made off the heels of My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, and Kanye obviously had put a lot of energy and passion into that project, and kind of just coming off the heels of that into a completely new project with Jay-Z that it just seemed like both of them didn't really put enough into it, comparatively, to Kanye's other albums where you can tell he really put all of his feeling and emotion in it. This one just kind of seems like, meh.
Yeah, it kind of comes off a little flat at times. I think that's the biggest issue because I think this album is okay. But I think the standout tracks are enough to kind of set this album as at least like mediocre. Yeah. But there are some seriously like some bland songs on this album, and which is weird because the production is just so like you can tell it's really expensive production.
Yeah.
It does not flow at all. It's probably the most like choppy album easily. It's the most disjointed album.
Doesn't really have
which is weird because he made some pretty weird and wacky, choppy albums, but this one just has no flow to it. I don't know. I'm not a big fan on this one. It's interesting that we agree on this one. I'm interested to hear as we move on. But what's your number 10?
So number 10, I'm putting Kids See Ghost.
You're crazy for that one.
Yeah. I think the project is It's good. It's a good project, and I know it's one of your favorites.
Yeah,
So
easily.
And I came into it with kind of high expectations, and I guess I just didn't get what I thought I was gonna get, and I was like, I don't know, like it's okay. The first time I listened to it, I was like, this is okay, and then I listened to it again. I was like, that's a little bit better, but I don't know. I like Fourth Dimension. That's a great song. I like
Fourth Dimension is one of my favorite. Like the whole line about Kanye saying that if he gets locked up, he won't finish the scent. It's like that's one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite Kanye bars.
And then
because
Reborn,
he didn't finish the sentence.
Then Reborn, Kid Cudi does great on the hooks. I mean, that's literally Kid Cudi, but like, I don't know. I think the rest of the track is just. I mean, the best way to describe this track or this project is splattered paint, and I get that's what they were kind of going for, but it just, I don't know, it doesn't really have a form, doesn't have a flow. It's just kind of all over the place.
Interesting.
For me. I have both the collaboration albums at the bottom.
Yeah, you don't like the collaboration albums.
I guess not.
I'm very surprised at that placing because I feel like this album is very I don't know. I'll get into it as I get to my list, but I'm very interested. That's interesting that you put Kids See Ghosts at number 10, one of my favorites. But for me at number 10, it's easily Jesus is King. It's his worst solo album. And it's really weird because when I listen to this album, I think something that connects all the albums that kind of sit towards the bottom is normally just there was so much potential and it just wasn't fully realized. And I think Jesus is King is a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
Because there is some incredible music on this album from, like, the first 3 tracks are exactly what I thought I was going to get with the album. It's massive. It does have this choral-centric production. The chants of Hallelujah on Salah are powerful. Like, you can't listen to that song at, like... It's got to be, like, ear-busting for you to listen to that song because it's just so powerful. And then Follow God is a great, like, just straight hip-hop song.
Yeah.
And then you get to Closed on Sunday. And, like, to me, Closed on Sunday is easily one of, like, Kanye's corniest. It's a terribly written song.
The first part of the song.
No, I would honestly say that the whole song is just really corny. I love the production. Like, it's really eerie at the beginning with all the little, like, choral chants throughout it. And then it builds really well, but I can't stop myself from skipping it every time I listen to this album. And another one is Water. Like, it's a perfect example of, like, some of the things that went wrong on this album. There's just times where I wish Kanye would have gone in an interesting direction with the music, and instead he goes the bland route. And every time I listen to that song, it feels like I'm being drowned in nothingness. Like, it's so not good.
It doesn't really...
For a
might song be about water, it has no flow.
Yeah, it just flows all together to the point where there's literally nothing there.
Yeah.
And it starts over in the middle, and I'm like, where are we going with this song? It's way too long, which is funny that this album would be too short in my eyes. Like, he didn't do enough with it.
Yeah.
But that song is so long. It's one of those albums that I just love. I either love everything about a part of the album or I hate everything about the part of the album. So it's really hard for me to, like, say what I feel about this album because, I mean, you listen to a track like Use This Gospel and, like, it's incredible. Like, it's almost like it reminds me very much of, like, the My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy Kanye with, you know, starting off really simple and just building the song. Yeah. The verses from Clips are amazing.
Kenny
G, like,
just
what?
Out of nowhere, like,
yeah, no, the Kenny G solo is incredible. The whole, like, melody of the song is great. I really love what this album does, especially at the beginning and the end of the album. I just really wish that there in the middle he would have stuck to kind of, like, what he set out to do and made it bigger. Like, I just that so that it's just a lot of lost potential for me.
I'm gonna just kind of insert. My number 9 is Jesus is King.
Okay, yeah.
So we're not too far off on that. I definitely agree. It's his worst solo project, and I love this album so much. Like it's one of my favorite Kanye albums. But I definitely agree. It had the potential to be an amazing album, and it just kind of turned out to be.
Because this was the first one you've heard, right?
This is the first Kanye album that I heard to completion.
So it's like. Hey y'all, we're trying to record. What'll be coming around the mountain when she comes?
The greatest Kanye track.
Yeah, that's my favorite Kanye track of all.
So yeah, this is actually the first album that I heard by Kanye to completion. My perspective of Kanye was very different from I guess everyone else's.
Yeah. Oh, Kanye is a really great guy. He loves Jesus.
I was like, man,
all of his songs are going to be about how much he loves
Kanye?
God. Yeah. Yeah, he's not controversial at all.
No, never. No.
But
no, I think this album
Kanye 2020.
This album should have been a like really strong project, and if it was like another, college dropout or labor registration, like if it just kind of had that same punch, it would have probably been top like 5. And I just think that it's missing something. I don't know what it's missing, but it's missing something. And
yeah, it does feel
on
like
Sunday gets way too much hate. Fight me on that.
No, it gets the exact amount of hate it deserves. Like this point and onward, I think is great. Like I think is incredible. It's just really hard to place when someone has made so many groundbreaking albums and so many like game-changing albums.
Yeah.
It's really hard to place everyone in the exact place.
Right. It was difficult. It took me at least.
And this is coming from a guy that's listened to Kanye forever, so I've had a pretty good like understanding of like where he sits, and each album sits for me. But to me, it's 808s and Heartbreaks. Which is really sad because personally, I love this album a lot, but it's more like parts of this album. I think what this album does best is it goes for this very cold and minimalistic feel, and it succeeds fully. Like
yeah, no, definitely.
It does exactly what it's trying to do, and that's to make an album that I feel like I can sit in and feel exactly what Kanye's talking about. And I think that's what you don't really get that from Kanye albums. And I feel like this and another album that I'll talk about later, it just feels like Kanye's very emotive and very personal on this album.
Yeah.
And it's really refreshing. It's a really refreshing listen. Say You Will is, I love that song so much. Like, I know it's like 5 minutes long, but honestly, if it was 10 minutes, I'd be cool.
Like whatever, just let it play.
You just sit in that song, and it's incredible. I love the production, but it in a really strange way, the like inviting lyrics kind of make you want to stay, and I love that about this album. Obviously, Heartless is great. Welcome to Heartbreak. Love Lockdown. Coldest Winter is a great finisher. But the problems I have with this album, obviously the Wheezy feature on See You in My Nightmares is very famous for being not good.
I definitely see that song in my nightmares.
Yeah, whatever Wheezy was trying to do on this song, it just did not succeed at all. Like, and then RoboCop is like... Like, when I listen to that song, it doesn't even make sense in the context of the album either, which is weird.
Out of nowhere.
It sounds like a graduation demo, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, but it's just bad.
But, it's not good at all. I don't know how it made the cutting room. Like, I don't know how that made the final cut. And another one is The Closer. Easily Kanye's worst closer. Kanye's, like, known for having really good closers. And... this one is not it. Like, I understand the story behind The Closer, but, like, it really takes you out of the album. And I think that's where the worst parts of this album is when it takes you out of the album.
Yeah.
Because the best part of this album is that you can kind of sit in the album.
Right.
I still think this is an incredible album. Obviously, it went on to influence the Drakes, the Travis Scotts, the Weeknds, the alternative R&B, hip hop kind of fusion that we've seen in the last 10 years. Really influenced that. But 808s and Heartbreaks is number 9 for me. So
number 8 for me is 808s and Heartbreaks.
Okay, so we're following each other. I really hope we don't have the rest of them just lined up.
We would like have to redo this whole thing.
Yeah, no. If that happens, we're done. We're done.
There's not a whole lot more to be said that you didn't already say. I think I agree with pretty much everything.
Okay.
I mean, it's an excellent album. It could have been one of his best if RoboCop didn't exist. And
that just kind of goes to prove the point that like we're holding this album down at number 9 for like 2 songs.
Right.
Like, it's kind of ridiculous because he's just got so much great music. It's really hard to place all these albums.
And I originally had this album higher on my list, but
I've always held this one close. But when I really sat down, it just fell down to 9.
Once I actually got to 808s and I listened to the first time, I was like, "This is great," but is it better than the Graduation trilogy? No. And once I started listening after that, I went back to 808s and I was like, 808s is pretty good. But I think it's just everything else on this list is just so incredible that it's hard.
It's weird to look at this album and be like, this would probably be someone's best album.
Yeah. Like
that they would have put out.
If Drake made this album.
If you're reading this, it's too late.
Okay, you're
pretty great.
But,
so
no, I think
it's a point that like it would be easily a top 3 album for any other artist, but this album is here because of how much great music he's put out.
Yeah.
So
you're number 8.
Okay. So my number 8.
There's no wrong answer, but if you answer correctly, I will fold you.
Yeah. So for me, number 8 is actually Jesus. It's definitely Jesus. It's funny that this album sits at number 8. I actually would have put this. If you would have asked me 2 years ago, this would have been last. I'm a big fan of industrial hip hop. I love, artists like JPEG Mafia. I do dabble in the Death Grips. So I do like, some artists in industrial hip hop. But because of that, I always had this, look at Yeezus, it's like the kid that wants to get into industrial hip hop and is like, oh, I'm going to be the weird kid. I'm going to do the weird music now.
Yeezus is the weird kid of Kanye's discography.
Yeah, and it's like, and I always looked at it as Kanye trying to make industrial hip-hop. Instead of kind of looking at it as an album where Kanye's, making a very cohesive electronic album. And I see it more now as, the production is actually really great.
It's incredible.
I think the best part of this album is that it's so cohesive. It's probably Kanye's second most cohesive album. I'll talk about the other one later. But it works really well together, which is weird for this album because it at times can jar you.
Yeah.
Specific tracks that I really enjoyed, like Black Skinhead. The drums on this album are so harsh, and I love them.
And just the wah 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 wah.
Yeah,
that's great.
And you can just hear the electronic collaborations throughout this album. There's some really weird collaborators on this album.
Yeah. And
you're just kind of how the heck did this happen? This album is so strange to me. And it ends absolutely perfectly with Bound 2, which when listening to it outside of the context of Yeezus, it's still great. It's a great Kanye song. But it's almost like a palate cleanser after listening to the other 9 tracks. You get to Bound 2 and you're kind of like, oh,
yeah,
this is really
it's
sweet.
If the whole album is black, Bound 2 is a fading gray into just...
Yeah, it kind of it's a little bit of hope. And obviously the song's about Kim, so he's kind of finding hope. The issues I really have with this album is I do think that it's not very groundbreaking for Kanye because people had already been pushing this style and genre pretty far before he had entered the ring.
But I think just classifying it as an industrial hip hop album doesn't do it justice. I think that industrial Kanye itself is basically its own genre. Like, I think that it takes a lot of inspiration from industrial hip hop, but it's also its own thing. I don't think Kanye was just trying to be Death Grips 2.
No, and I don't think he was either, but I do think that I do hold it back because a lot of times we look at Kanye as like he's the guy that's pushing hip hop into the new directions. Yeah. In this one, it feels like he was like a little bit behind everyone else in that vein, and he was just trying to play catch up a little bit. So I do hold that a little bit against him, and I think that he also kind of repeats the same story that he was going for on like My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Like, I understand the idea of, like, lyrically, I think is the weakest part of this album because he's just pushing the bad guy living in debauchery like a little bit further on this album.
Also, keep 300
like the Romans. Yeah. But I mean, obviously, you do have some great Kanye lines, like the one about him being on the top floor looking like King Kong.
Yeah.
That I love that line.
Hurry up with my dang croissants.
Yeah, the croissants. Give me my dang croissant. Yeah, no, I really like parts of the lyrics, but for the most part, it just feels like he's just trying to up himself on, like, how bad can I make myself sound. And I also think this is the point in Kanye's career where he's kind of like, don't really care about being a great rapper.
Yeah.
At this point, he's just more like, whatever sticks with people, I'll say. So this is where Kanye starts to go, like, say really crazy stuff on tracks, and you're kind of like, okay, Kanye,
Okay, Kanye, you are a god.
Yeah, but if you just kind of like listen, if you just kind of listen through the album, the production is just so good, and it's very cohesive, and that's what I've kind of come to love about it. I still hold it back quite a bit for not being as...
It's not consistent as other Kanye albums. I would think.
Yeah, the track list is not as consistent.
Some of the tracks are kind of...
Quality-wise,
I think Send It Up is one of the worst tracks on this album.
I wasn't big on that one. No, I'm In It. I'm not a big fan of I'm In It.
I'm In It is like...
It's like, I don't know. It's like a club banger, but...
It
gets lost in the verse for me.
I feel like it starts off kind of strong, and it starts off like a Yeezus song, and then it kind of just goes like... I don't know. But, yeah, I'm upset that you put Yeezus so low.
At 8, yeah. But, so we're at number 7, though, now.
Number 7, my number 7, I hate to do this to you, bro, but I feel like Pablo. Number 7 is The Life of Pablo.
Wow, okay.
I know that's like
interesting.
One of your favorites. I feel like I'm saying this for a lot of albums, like Kids See Ghosts, Life of Pablo. Yeah. No, but I think The Life of Pablo is an incredible project. I love it so much. It's great. My only problem is that I feel like the back half of the track list is kind of weaker.
Wow. I actually feel like the second half is strongest, but that's interesting. That's an interesting take.
the front half, you've got Ultralight Beam, Father Stretch My Hand, Famous, Feedback. I guess Waves is in the second half, but I
feel like the album changes after Freestyle 4. After the I Love Kanye, and then that's where it is. Freestyle 4, and then there's I Love Kanye.
Yeah.
And then it's like Waves. To me, Waves is like the second part of the album where it gets much more like personal. Yeah. But I'll talk about that later.
The absolute banger, No More Parties in LA.
Oh my goodness.
Wow, bro. Please, baby, no more parties in LA. And how Kanye out-raps Kendrick Lamar? That doesn't happen. No one does that.
Yeah, that like I apparently there's like 30 like unreleased Kendrick and Kanye tracks that
I'm
they're
waiting.
just hiding in the vault somewhere.
I'm waiting for like them to just be like, okay, well, we didn't know what to do with these tracks, so here's a mixtape of
Yeah.
just Kanye, Kendrick,
And of
you're
course,
like,
Madlib on the production is incredible. Yeah, but for me, so we're on number 7, right?
number 7, yeah.
Number 7
Burger
is
King
Ye.
foot lettuce.
it's Ye. Ye. I haven't heard Ye from you yet, so obviously you hold this one pretty high, which is surprising. But I really love this album. This is the other album that I was talking about with Kanye, where I feel like I can kind of, it's very emotive, like
Yeah,
808s and
very
Heartbreak.
personal.
It's a very personal album, and I feel like this is the album I can really like. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I connect with Kanye, and the struggle between dealing with like the mental health issues that he's dealing with on this album, and he's dealt with in his career, especially after like from Life of Pablo on.
Yeah.
It's been very like present in his music when he's talking about it, and then how that affects his family on the back half of the album, which is really cool. Like that's a really cool balance between the two.
Yeah.
I think the opener's incredible. I think it's really strange, but it gives a really good look into what Kanye's thinking, and
Yeah.
he doesn't have just this like basic take on mental health.
Right.
And I don't even know if Kanye really went into this album trying to discuss like oh, this is going to be an album about my mental health, but it was just so prevalent in the album that it became extremely important in the album lyrically. I also think that it's a great companion piece to Kids See Ghost, because it kind of obviously Ghost Town is very much connected to what he's doing on Kids See Ghost.
Yeah.
It's very strange. It's rock influenced, which is what he goes through on Kids See Ghost. But it gets way too much, or I just feel like it doesn't get enough credit for what it did. I don't feel like there's really a bad track on this album. Some people are a little indifferent on All Mine, and I get it, but I think it's a really fun, bouncy track. I think it's Party Next Door and Ty Dolla $ign are on the vocals. I love the little hook.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
great. I think it's a nice little like a little bit of color. Just like the way to describe like this album feels very dark blue, because it's kind of a heavy subject, and the way he deals with it and stuff is just kind of, it's really, this album is great. I love it, but I think the spoken word on I Thought About Killing You
It's so good.
was executed perfectly. I think it's so hard to actually do spoken word like in modern day hip hop.
Yeah.
And for it to be the first thing you hear on the track,
Oh, that's pretty brave.
on the album,
Yeah,
it's great. I think
Yeah.
I think this album is really good. But
Yeah, I do think that the only struggles to me is this is Kanye's weakest production, and it's weird to come to a Kanye album and
there'd be
prefer
production.
what he's actually talking about and making you feel than exactly like what he's doing with this maximalist production.
Yeah.
So I'd actually probably say that this is one of Kanye's weaker production. I'd say
No, definitely.
I think it's a better production than like Watch the Throne, but I do think that it's not his like one. If someone was like, what's Kanye's best production on an album, this would not be one I would bring up.
No.
And I would also say that this is not one that I would, this would probably be like one of the last albums I would show people when talking about Kanye.
Yeah, no, you have to.
Because I feel like this is much more of like a Kanye fan album,
Yeah.
which is kind of weird because of how short it is. I do wish this album was a little bit bigger. I also feel the same way about Kids See Ghost. I understand what they were going for with the Wyoming projects, but I do wish that this was a bit longer.
Yeah.
But I will let you start with number 6.
We're on number 6. So it pains me to put this album here, but Yeezus is number 6. I love Yeezus so much. I love this album.
I don't understand like the immense love. I know a lot of people really love this album and kind of praise it as Kanye's experimental, groundbreaking album.
I wouldn't
and-
say either. I think
I
Life
just
of Pablo is his most experimental. I would say.
okay, so we agree on that.
And I would say 808s is his most groundbreaking album.
Okay, so we agree on those
yeah,
both things.
but
yeah.
I love you. I like the vibe, and maybe it's just because my perspective of Kanye is different from everyone else who listened to it, like when it came out or whatever.
Yeah.
But first time I listened to it, I was like, "This is terrible. I hate this." Then I listened to it literally 30 minutes later, and I was like, "This is amazing. I love this now."
Yeah, it's
And I mean, we pretty much said everything. I love this track or this like track list and Black Skinhead, New Slaves, even like I Am a God, which I used to not like, but now I really appreciate the production on it. And like later on the album, like Bound 2 is Blood on the Leaves. Oh, dude.
Yeah, and I think what I didn't mention earlier was, Kanye's always been known for how he uses samples, and on this one, he uses the samples so weird.
Yeah.
They're really sharp, and I think it just adds a different texture. It's a different side of Kanye. He uses it later, also in like Life of Pablo, with how sharp he makes the samples.
Yeah.
But that Nina Simone sample is eerie to this day, and obviously what he's talking about on the track is incredible. But yeah,
No,
so Yeezus at number
Yeezus
6.
at number 6.
That's
I
very
love it,
interesting.
but yeah, I can't put it above anything else that I have above it.
So number 6 for me is, it's kind of weird putting this album down here because it's so good and it's so well known as being this great album. It's Graduation. I have Graduation at number 6.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
So I think that it's weird putting Graduation dead middle, but I think that the production is the only thing really that like it sounds a little dated compared to the like. If someone was like, what's the most dated sounding Kanye album other than Watch the Throne, I would tell them Graduation. It just sounds very much of its time. And in a way, it's weird to hold it against it because that's kind of what Kanye was going for. He wants to make these big anthemic, hip-hop songs. And he succeeds fully.
Oh, yeah.
I just think like on tracks like Barry Bonds, it does not hit
Drunken
correctly.
Hot Girls, I think. Is just...
Drunken Hot Girls is like one of the weirder songs on the album, and I don't think he really achieves what he was going for.
I don't think it fits the rest of the album either, which kind of separates it. I think that...
Yeah, it's really strange.
I think it would have been better on something that kind of had the same feel as My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Obviously, I wouldn't want that song on that album.
No.
That would kind of ruin the album. But I mean, like, the kind of vibe it was going for, it was a kind of tipsy song, I guess, but I don't know.
That's why it's like it's in 3/4, which is really cool.
Yeah, but I don't know. It didn't hit from the vocals on the hook were na 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 na.
Yeah, no,
like
no.
it just goes.
Yeah, that.
I love that sample,
but
though,
I mean, it's also got some of Kanye's best songs. It could almost read as greatest hits.
oh my god, yeah,
Just from like, I absolutely love The Glory. I love Champion.
I wonder, Stronger, Flashing Lights.
Yeah, Flashing Lights is so good. Like, so good. This whole album is really good. I think it's a really great album.
So I put Graduation at number 5.
Okay, so we'll just
so yeah, might as well just keep talking about it. But no, I think this is my favorite of the Graduation trilogy. I love this album a whole lot. I like the bright, colorful, kind of dancey kind of vibe it's going for. And there's only, like, we've always
it's a very
mentioned,
bright album.
Yeah, the 2 tracks I don't like, and that's it. And the rest of the album I love. I love The Good Life. I mean, say what you want about it.
Yeah,
that's one of my favorite songs.
T-Pain's
by Kanye.
amazing.
Yeah, no,
I love
it's
T-Pain.
just, every time T-Pain and Kanye sound like, if you didn't know either of them or didn't know their past projects, you'd be like, it's a weird combination. But then you listen to anything they've made together, and you're like,
yeah, it works perfectly.
Bro, like T-Pain.
It's because
and
Kanye, Kanye's one of his biggest strengths is the ability to work with vocals.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously he's going to kill it with T-Pain.
Yeah.
So, the top 5, this is where it gets serious for...
Yeah.
These are the masterpieces for me. Like, everything after this is basically perfect. And I'm going to start with Kid See Ghost at number 5.
Wow.
So,
I completely forgot about that album. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. So, Kid See Ghost is number 5 for me. it's Kanye's hip hop psychedelic rock album,
It's definitely on drugs. That's for
and
sure.
it is great. It's amazing. It's, Kitsy Ghost is obviously Kid Cudi and Kanye, and it's weird that Kanye kind of took what Kid Cudi was doing, because Kid Cudi has put out some really bad rock albums, and Speeding Bullet to Heaven is terrible. You've never heard it, but it's
No.
awful. And he kind of took that sound and he's like, no, I'm gonna make it good, and it's amazing. Like, this album's really, really good.
I think it would have benefited from being a full length album.
I do too.
It probably would have been a little higher on my list if it had a fuller track list, maybe 10 or 12 songs.
Yeah.
And just like, I don't know. I feel like it's a great sound, but I think there was like more that I wanted to hear from it. It's like a lot of the songs I'm like, okay, but like, what else? That's just kind of how I felt.
But I do think that this album, to me, it just completely succeeds. Even in the 7 tracks, which is why I don't have it above anything else, is because there's just, the other albums just have too much to offer.
Right.
And while this one offers a lot of new, it's just 7 tracks. I think Fourth Dimension is an incredible Kanye song.
It's pretty good.
I already kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier. Obviously, Free is a great second part to Ghost Town. Reborn, we already talked about that one. It's just very calming.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love all these songs. These are all on my playlist, constantly being rotated. The opener, Feel the Love, the Kanye drums, like it's just, I love this whole album. It's full of so much energy, and I feel like while Ye is more about the lyrics and like what Kanye's feeling, this one's more of like fully production, what he's doing with the sounds.
Yeah.
And it's an incredible
It's like
album.
he just took the faders for vocal and production. Just went like this.
Yeah, that's kind of what I feel like on this album. But it's incredible. He also really raps really well on this album, which is kind of weird because he kind of turned it off on Ye, and then he turned it back on for Kid See Ghost. Yeah. So I really love this album. I love Kid Cudi. I thought they did a great job. So we'll go to
all right, number 4. This album is... It has.
I haven't heard of one yet, and I'm very interested to hear where you place
this album has moved so much on my list.
It's got to be this one. It's got to be this one.
Originally, it was at the bottom.
Oh, wow.
Because I did not like this album, and I was like, this is just bland and trash. And then every time I listened to it, it would move up one spot. And
did you put Ye at 4?
I put Ye at 4.
That's crazy.
And Ye is my new favorite Kanye album. I love it so much. I think that this, in my opinion, this is a perfect album. I think that there's no misses, no mistakes. There's no mistakes on this album.
I see what you did there.
Facts. But no, I think my only problem with this album really is that there wasn't more of it. Like,
yeah,
I kind of just wish that there was more that I could listen to, because I just love listening to this album. And I get, it's just 7 projects, the Wyoming projects or whatever. Or the 7-track projects, and it fits, but also I just kind of want more because I love it so much. But yeah, I'm putting it at 4. I think it's the first, on my list, is the first perfect.
Number 4 for me is Kanye's experimental opus, his second half of his career, kind of masterpiece, if you will. I really love this album, and it's Life of Pablo. Life of Pablo is Kanye taking all the old and the new and putting it together, and we get this crazy album. A lot of people can look at this album and it's like, it's a mess. It's all over the place.
Yep. And
I think it works to the advantage of this album. It's one of the few albums where I feel like Kanye's really going for a story in a way. Like, the album is definitely kind of like Ye, where it's this fight between family and the crazy life that Kanye loves to live. And to me, this is more of a gospel album than Jesus is King.
Yeah.
In a way where it actually incorporates gospel sounds and stuff like that. And I think this album completely succeeds at doing what it wants. I love the first half of this album for being its crazy, kind of all over the place, very much a Chance-inspired album. Obviously, I'm wearing a 3 hat, so I love Chance. But, I mean, Ultralight Beam being the best feature on a Kanye
incredible.
album. But I love the back half of this album.
Did you say the best feature on a Kanye album?
Yes, I did. Yeah, Rick Ross. I said that.
What, Rick Ross? Rick Ross. Rip.
To me, that's the best one.
I don't know. I guess I'd really have to think about that, but that's a
big take.
Bold
it's a
claim.
bold take. Bring it on. I'm ready. The second closest is Rick Ross on Devil with the New Dress. But then the second half of this album gets extremely personal, and I really love that. Like FML, Real Friends, it just gets very much like Kanye starting to look inward at his own life and how he reacts with people.
And then out of nowhere, you just get hit by a bus.
Yeah,
and on the front it just says,
no more parties in LA. Yeah. Obviously, I love that one too, but that also deals with the idea of like trying to leave the life that you love behind to have a new life with a family, and like this constant like pull between the two. I love them. And then obviously I love St. Pablo. It's a great closer. Talking about obviously his family, and it's a perfect wrap up of the album to me.
Yeah.
And then so yeah, I really love this album. I think it's number 4. So now we're in the top 3.
Top 3. And
so we have 3 albums that we both have not said. So
they're all the same. Like they're the same 3 albums, just the order.
Okay, so if we may be able to, like, we may get them all right. So what's your number 3?
Number 3 is The College Dropout.
Okay, so we're right on that one.
All right, so
we'll talk about The College Dropout.
First of all, the old Kanye, Chop Up the Soul Kanye. Everyone's got to agree. Like, this album is excellent. If it's not perfect, it's this close to being.
It's Kanye's most likable album.
Yeah,
it's so easy to like this album. It's so warm. It's so enjoyable.
This is his first album, because if you're introducing Kanye to anyone, like you did to me, listening to this album was fun. Like it was like, wow, if this is Kanye, I want to. And I mean, obviously, this is not all of Kanye.
No,
this is not the best Kanye, but I think that it kind of leads you into what would be the best
for sure.
Kanye.
Yeah.
And I think, like, this album does so many things well. I mean, the features, while, they're all just, from his label, it's just like Jay-Z and
Common.
But, like, and they're great features. And I think that the skits are hilarious.
And both the first 2 albums, the skits are absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, and I think skits were kind of dying at that time, and they didn't. It was kind of hard to pull it off and be like, yeah, I got skits on my album. But at the same time, these are actually funny. They're like,
they're hilarious.
Like, them.
I think that this album, like I said, and it also is not afraid to take a risk. Like, what is the new workout plan?
I love the new workout plan. It's great because he just kind of... It's like Kanye...
It's such a weird song to put, like, you know what? I'm going to put the new workout plan on my debut album.
Right,
like,
and you're just like...
What? Like, there's... Yeah, he's just really brave on this album.
And it's a fun song, and it's just... I think it just shows, like, Kanye, because... Yeah, Kanye's so Kanye that he put the new workout plan on his debut album.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. But yeah, I also have The College Dropout number 3. So, what's your number 2?
Number 2, Late Registration.
Okay, so we just finished off. Okay. We finished off together. So
Late Registration is if College Dropout is the raw Kanye, then Late Registration is the grinded and polished Kanye.
Yeah, this is much more of a refined version
Yeah.
of the Kanye. I do think in some ways, like, obviously, College Dropout is his most soulful,
Yeah.
and you do lose some of that, but what you lose in that, you gain in polish on
Yeah.
this album.
You gain in there's a little bit more pop influence.
Yeah,
There-
you can definitely see, like, the first 3 albums are very much a spectrum.
Yeah.
Like, you get more towards the pop as you go on.
It's like a fader.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that this album is incredible. I love, like, there's so, like, you can almost name the whole track list,
Yeah.
and it's
Heard him
great.
say, "Drive slow,
Touch the Sky.
touch the sky, crack music."
Correct music is great.
Bro, and then like Diamonds from Sierra Leone.
Yeah, Jay-Z and Kanye.
man.
That song is better than all of Watch the Throne.
Oh yeah, by far. No, it's
So-
it's incredible. Now I will say
We
that,
Major.
We
Nas.
Major.
We Major. Oh yeah.
No, I will say that Jesus Walks is better than Diamonds though.
Yeah. That's not crazy to
Okay.
say.
I think
You're not crazy for that.
Kanye kind of made it out like Diamonds from Sierra Leone is going to be the next Jesus Walks, and it's a great song,
Yeah.
but it's not even the best.
And
song
I'm sorry
of
if
the
we're
album.
not talking a lot about the track lists in these 2 albums, but like
They're self-explanatory.
they're very self-explanatory. Like these tracks
They're just
are
good.
they're all great.
Yeah,
Like,
they're
we don't
good.
really have to name any names. Like they're all iconic.
Yeah.
Like obviously Jesus is King or Jesus is King. Jesus is King. Obviously Jesus Walks is
yeah.
incredible. From the College Dropout. Like both of these track lists are spotless. It's just picking the songs.
Yeah.
So
Alright.
so number 1.
Number 1, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy.
Yeah, so-
whatever. Hate us for it because we're mainstream and we put his best album
See,
at number 1.
I used to really hate when people were like, "Oh, no, that's his best album." I'm like, that's such an uninteresting pick. And honestly, it kind of is. It's kind of an uninteresting pick because it's
Everyone knows
obviously
that.
his best
It's
album.
obviously a perfect album. I
Yeah.
think I'm not dumb or like it's not a hot take to say this is a perfect
Yeah,
album.
and for a long time I would like pull this one down because I just didn't like the fact that people called this one his best, but it's his best. It like
is.
when looking in the like
Context.
the context, yeah, that's the word I was looking for. The context of this album, it's his best. And like I was saying with Yeezus, this is his most cohesive album.
Yeah.
It's his best concept of an album. This idea of like this guy that he's pushing what everyone in the media kind of sees him as. It didn't die. So I am wearing a different hoodie, but still same video. Don't worry. Our camera just died when we were recording last because this video is long. If you're still here, yes, it is long. But we're going to be talking about the last album, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, a little bit more in depth.
Kanye's greatest album.
Yep. So we both agreed that Kanye put his best foot forward with this album.
He hit the mark. He hit a grand
Yeah,
slam.
and this album is, in a lot of ways, it's Kanye proving something that we already know about him, but in a weird way, we get something even bigger with this album. It does show his soul sensibility of like the College Dropout, but it's pristine and perfect like a Late Registration.
Yeah.
But it also has the importance of the vocals of like an 808s and also the pop appeal of a Graduation.
Yeah.
So honestly, it's an amalgamation of everything that came before it.
Yeah.
In a weird like kind of like Life of Pablo is to the new generation Kanye.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is where it like pulls everything from what came before. To me, this is that to a T.
The track list on this album is the best so far as well. I think.
Easily.
There's not a bad even the interlude, the All the Lights interlude.
Oh yeah. Well, I
Is
kind
better
of
than
get
some other Kanye songs.
Yeah.
So I mean,
that's got it's got
Elton John.
Elton John, and to me, this is what separates Kanye from a lot of different artists is the collaboration. This is like his collaborative album.
Yeah.
And he would continue to go on like to have a bunch of collaborations with Yeezus and Pablo, even Ye and Kid See Ghost. Kanye became very much all about the collaboration, and to me it comes down to this album where it's more about him collaborating because he realizes that like you can't reach your peak without other people in the room.
Yeah.
And he proves that he almost becomes more of a maestro than he does.
Oh no, definitely.
Yeah, he's like the conductor of this album.
Yes, very much so.
A lot of people describe this as Kanye was reaching for perfection, and I
feel like he overshot it a bit, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. But let's just kind of go through the tracks a little bit. Obviously the opener, Dark Fantasy is
banger.
The vocals are incredible. The weird intro from Nicki Minaj kind of sets off the tone.
Yeah, the super real British accent. That's definitely a real British accent.
Yeah, but I just feel like throughout this track, it really is the perfect opener.
Yeah.
Where it just kind of opens the door to the chaos that is this album.
It fits perfectly. It's just like a perfect puzzle piece.
And then of course you get Gorgeous, Kid Cudi's hip hop. It's very much a 2010s hip hop song, but it also has its own theme because of the rock theme.
Yeah.
Throughout the song, I love Kanye gives a great this might be his best second or third best rapping on the album. The one about 30 Rock's feeling like Alec Baldwin there was like a bunch.
That's a ball.
There's a bunch of really good lines on this one, and I know he normally freestyles this song when he raps. And then Power.
Oh my goodness.
Is the best Kanye West song.
It's like
it's just if someone was like what's the objective best Kanye song,
Power.
It's Power.
I think
because of just how it's so immaculate. The samples are so great.
It's the evolution of Jesus Walks, in my opinion. Because I think Jesus Walks is like the OG. Like this is the best. Whenever it came, this is the best Kanye.
Easily.
And then once Power dropped, it's like
he topped it.
Jesus Walks, but way better.
Yeah. And the lyrics are incredible. It's a perfect picture of what Kanye's going to present to everyone throughout this album. And it's this idea that, he's in this struggle. Honestly, it's more of him trying to paint this picture of the character that society has made him look like.
Yeah.
And so it's the dark, twisted fantasy image, right?
Yeah.
And we also get tracks like Monster. Monster is
so good. Oh.
It reminds me a little bit of what they're doing on. Oh, what's that track?
We Major?
No, well, it's on this album. So Appalled. Oh, so Appalled. Where he's just like, let's just get a bunch of great rappers and just put them on a track.
Yep.
And it's got some of his most iconic lines. I love both of those tracks. I actually prefer the So Appalled version, towards Monster. If I had to pick the two,
bold. I would say Monster is better.
But they're both incredible.
I think they're both incredible songs.
Yeah, anytime Rick Ross is on a Kanye track, it's instantly a classic.
He kills it, bro.
Because I don't know, he just fits perfectly.
And speaking has 10 words on the song, and it's already this is great.
Yeah, but speaking of Rick Ross, Devil in a New Dress.
Oh yes, sir! What a banger.
Okay, so one person we failed to mention throughout this discussion is Mike Dean, and his importance to Kanye as an artist.
A legend.
Mike Dean is absolutely incredible on this track. He plays the solo.
Yeah.
It's like a 2-minute guitar solo.
I know.
It just dead center in the middle is a song.
Yeah.
And it's my favorite song other than Power on this album.
Huh. Interesting.
I know a lot of people will put Runaway, which we'll discuss next, but yeah, this song is incredible.
I think I like All of the Lights more than this song. I think we didn't even talk about All of the Lights.
All of the Lights is Kanye's this is where Kanye is able to show, like, yeah, this is how good I am with production.
I can take
this is what production can
I can take
be.
all of these people who you think are great on their own and then put them in a choir.
Yeah.
Like
someone said that like, cuz what you have, like, Drake, Alicia Keys, Elton John,
like all these just huge names in music.
and they're just sitting in there, like, just there to, like, get a vocal snippet so he could just put it in the background.
Like, yeah, they're not even.
Oh, Rihanna's on it. Yeah, I forgot Rihanna. There's no feature names on this song, which is hilarious because it would have been like 30 names.
Yeah.
And that's what's so incredible about this album is you look at all the collaborators on each of the tracks. Like, if you go on Genius or if you have the physical copy and it shows you all the different collaborators on the song, it's pretty incredible. You're like, wait a second, Drake was on this track? Like, what? And then obviously Bon Iver is big on this one. I'm a big Bon Iver fan. Justin Vernon is one of my favorite artists. And honestly, his additions to tracks, like, of course, Monster.
Yeah.
He was on, of course, Lost in the Woods, or Lost in the World is a sample from, wait, I actually got that out. It's actually a sample from this EP, Blood Bank. I love this EP. It just released on physical. Yep, there it is, Woods.
Woods.
Yeah, but he samples this track in that song, and it's a great closer because I feel like the whole album he's searching for himself, and then it peaks with Runaway.
Yeah.
And then Runaway is this, like, this idea of, like, he's finally breaking through the image that he's been painting.
Yeah.
And then you get the vocoder, like, ending where he's like, no one actually understands ever what I'm saying.
Yeah. And
the feeling of isolation that brings. And he breaks through on the Lost in the World closer. And it's just a perfect closer to a perfect album.
Yeah, I think there's not a bad track on this album.
No, there's not. The closest to it is Hell of a Life, and even that is a banger.
It's a banger. I don't think that one's bad.
Yeah, it's like, if someone was like, which one's the weakest song on it, I would say that, but I still love that song.
I would argue Gorgeous is the weakest one.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's just like, I don't know, maybe it doesn't hit the same
as all the do you don't like the beat? Or the melody?
I don't know. I think the song is great, of course, but, like, it's just marginally less great than the rest of the songs in the album.
Okay.
Anyway, that hot take's out the way.
But Jackson, we've talked about
a lot of Kanye.
We have talked about this video is way too long.
Yeah.
No, this has been a really fun topic to talk about. Kanye's a pretty easy surface level person to talk about because he's just so good and he's very easily liked. And so I'm glad we got to have this conversation. So we're hoping to be doing more of stuff like this with the channel. We will do more discussions. We're not specifically going to be doing discography breakdowns every time because these videos take forever to edit and talk about and listen through someone's entire discography. We just decided to do Kanye because we know a lot of people, connect with Kanye and, of course, everything that's going on right now in the world of Kanye.
And I love the old Kanye.
Yeah.
Chop up the soul Kanye.
Yeah.
Straight from the go Kanye.
Yeah. Set on his goals Kanye. But we're hoping to do more, like, specific album breakdowns. We'll also be doing like bi-weekly reviews of 3 albums. We're both going to choose an album. Shush. And then we're going to actually let the community choose another album as well. So we'll be putting that on our Instagram, and we'll, like, have a link to a Google, what is the Google survey? I don't know. Is it Google survey? Is that what it's called? Yeah, it's Google survey. Yeah, you're of no help. And then we'll let y'all choose between some albums that have come out
Forms.
recently.
It's a form.
Google Forms. Yes, that's the happiest I've been today. We'll let y'all choose on a Google form the album of that y'all want to hear us talk about, and we'll be doing those bi-weekly. And then of course we'll be doing these breakdowns whenever we can get the chance.
Yeah.
Because
that might be like a very rare
yeah,
thing, but
so we definitely want to hear y'all's takes on everything. Definitely leave comments down below. We'll definitely be communicating with y'all. Like, share, subscribe, and thank y'all for watching, guys.
goodbye.
Swear, yeah, this is the noisiest this house has been in like 3 days.